Hey there, welcome back to Badass Messaging. We're still in Module 3, Core Themes, and here in Lesson 3, we're talking about how to find your core themes. Now, the big truth bomb here is that your core messaging themes should make you stand out from the crowd. So to find them, focus on what makes you different. Focus on what makes you different from the crowd. So that's what we're going to be talking about, how to do that. Now, specifically, you're going to discover why your core differentiators are a great source of core themes, how your core values can be core themes, and how to identify core themes from mistakes your audience is making. So let's dive in. We're going to start with your core differentiators and why they work as core themes. Now, in the Online Marketing Foundations course, you learn the importance of defining your core differentiators. Those things that are different about the way you serve or teach or help your audience versus kind of your competitors. So that's what we're talking about here when we talk about core differentiators. Now, your differentiators are perfect for core messaging themes because they are by definition what makes you stand out, what makes you different. So if you think about it, it just naturally makes sense that if your goal is to try to stand out, to try to, have messaging themes that make you different. Well, if you're talking about your core differentiators, then that's part of your theme. And it's not talking about them so much as them being your core differentiators. But if you're talking about those things about your approach that are different, you will stand out. So that's kind of how this works. Now, if you haven't defined your core differentiators yet, take time to figure out what is different about how you solve people's problems, because you're going to need that throughout messaging. In the next module, you're actually going to have to create a core differentiator statement. And so it's important that you know what it is that's different about how you approach helping your people versus others. So make sure you've done that. And once you've done that, you want to lean into those things in your messaging. And again, this isn't about talking about how you're different per se. It's about just talking about those things that are important. So for example, for me, talking about the serve first approach versus the other approach, that's part of the things that make me different, and I do it. And so I'm leaning into that. Similarly, me talking about how, people need to understand fundamentals of marketing and not simply look for a step-by-step guide, that's part of my differentiator. But I'm not saying I'm different because, I don't always go around saying I'm different because I'm going to teach you these things. I simply talk about those things that are different. So that's what you want to do with your core differentiators in your core themes. Now, the second place you can look is core values, because your core values can be a great place for messaging themes. Because once you've defined the things you stand for, you really should share those with your audience. They should know what you stand for. And again, the great thing is you don't have to talk about it being your core values. If you simply talk about those things and they kind of are weaved throughout what you're talking about, it's going to help you because you're naturally going to be expressing those values to people. And core values are a great source for messaging themes because they help your audience decide whether you are their kind of person. This is kind of more in the, it's not even necessarily about whether, the way that you're going to teach them, the way that you're going to help them is best. It's like, hey, do I like this person? Do I really want to be doing business with this person? And people who can connect with you, people who feel kind of a deep affinity for your core values will be drawn to you. So here's an example. My Serve First marketing core theme, apart from being kind of a differentiator, it's also a manifestation of my Serve First core value. And so by talking about that, I'm naturally bringing in people and will naturally kind of be building a connection with people in my audience who share that value, who share that belief about the way we should be doing business, living life, etc. And so, in some sense, using that core value deepens the connection that I'm going to have. So you should be doing the same things with your core values, whatever they are. You should find ways to weave them, and they should be part of your core messaging themes. Now, the final place we're going to look for messaging themes is in the mistakes. The mistakes you identified in the last module are great places to look for messaging themes. Now, I want you to get this, that the mistakes and mistaken beliefs you identified really can be a treasure trove for your core messaging, and here's why. Mistakes-based core themes help cut through the noise because you're speaking directly into what your audience is doing, right? If you're talking about the mistakes and it's things they're doing, they are going to resonate with them, or it will resonate with them. And they'll hear you talking about how they should be doing something different, and it will pique their interest. Also, here's another reason why it helps. Your audience's mistakes generally come from the traditional or conventional wisdom. So talking about them and talking about how they're mistakes will help you stand out from the crowd, right? Because people are making those mistakes because they've been told to do these things over and over and over again, either directly or kind of implicitly. And so when you stand up and say, you shouldn't be doing those things, guess what? You will be saying something very different from what they've heard before. So again, it'll help you cut through the noise. Now, a note on these kinds, if you're looking at the mistakes-based core themes, often they'll have a this, not that structure. So my marketing, not selling, in some sense, is a mistakes theme. I'm saying one of the big mistakes that online entrepreneurs make is they're selling all the time and they're not marketing. And so that's kind of one of the things where I'm talking about a mistake in a way that is you should be doing this instead of that. The mistakes themes won't always go on that structure, but oftentimes they will. So it's a good place for you to kind of put a this versus that type of messaging out in the world is by finding the mistakes. So that's it on the mistakes. But again, the big takeaway here is that to find your core messaging themes, think of things that set you apart from the market, because those are the things that are going to cut through the noise. Those are the things that are really going to get people's attention. And that's what you're looking for with your core messaging it should be things you believe in. Obviously, it should be things that you believe to your core that need to be done in a certain way. But they're also, when they're different, it makes you stand out. So, call to action is take the time to define your core messaging themes now, kind of go through these things, or the three ways we talked about here, or anything else that you can think of that really sets you apart from the crowd and will help to cut through the noise. Those are the things you can look to for your core messaging themes. Now, in the next lesson, you'll discover how your core messaging themes then can drive your content creation efforts. So I'll see you in the next lesson.